Why does God allow natural disasters and natural evils? We talked about how free will explains a lot of the evil God permits in the world. Namely, God permits our freedom to sin because it is that very same freedom that gives us the ability to love. However, floods and tornadoes and disease and famine do not appear to be caused by free will, but rather by the order of the world that God made. Now, again, like we mentioned earlier, we do not see the beginning from the end like God does, so we cannot say why a particular evil is permitted while others are not. We only know why we do not know, namely that God sees more than we do, and he permits evils for the sake of a greater good. However, there are multiple possibilities to explain natural evils. It could have been the case that God set angels in charge over the many physical aspects of our world. And because the demons rebelled against God, they are not maintaining what God set them over to maintain, but rather now abusing their freedom within the bounds that God permits. Just like God permits evil men to commit crimes within the bounds he permits, because sometimes he will put an end to their crime by ending their life, like he did in the Great Flood or at Sodom and Gomorrah. In Sodom, the people there were serial essayers, and God eventually put an end to their crimes by ending them when they persisted in sin too long. So free will could still explain why God permits natural evils like floods and cancers. Or it could also have to do with God's desire to maintain a natural order without him constantly intervening. We have to remember that death is not non-existence in a Christian worldview. It is more like a change of location. So God permitting people to die in order to maintain a natural order is not as cruel as it may seem to us, where death seems to be an end. And again, our time in this life compared to the next is almost nothing. We exist here for 70, maybe 80 years for those who are strong. So we suffer for at most around that length of time. But compared to the infinite time in our afterlife, 80 years is nothing, not even a drop in the bucket. Life is truly very short, and it is short partially due to God's compassion to not permit us to suffer too long. In the past, people assumed that all evil must be due to sin, and so they asked our Lord, quote, "Teacher, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" Jesus answered, "It is not that this man sinned or his parents, but that the works of God might be manifest in him." End quote. We have to remember God's end goal for us is not that we be comfortable or experience pleasure in this life, or that everything is just fine and dandy on earth. No, we are in a spiritual war, and God's goal is to lead us to choose love and reject evil. God is not opposed to our happiness, but he wants us to be happy forever with him. And if that means being unhappy now in order to facilitate that, then he will permit it. You may not like going to the dentist for uncomfy cleanings, but you will dislike rotting, painful teeth much worse. But you may be thinking, why would God, maintaining a natural order to the world, prevent him from miraculously stopping floods and famines? So let's talk about that next.